broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
The animal is trap, trap, trap till the cages fall. The cages fall, there's no, and everybody's waiting on you, and you've got time. Yay, Scott with the notes.
That was
Hi, welcome to another episode of AfterBuzz TV's recap of Orange is the New Black Season 3, Episode 7, Tongue Tie.
Mm-hmm.
What's up? It's me, Megan Thomas, at McScoop on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And we have some amazing people here. Let's start with you, lovely lady. Who are you?
Hey guys, I'm Lauren Salaun, sitting in tonight for Sterling, and I'm so excited to be here and talk Orange is the New Black.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. I loved that singing the intro. That was a lot more fun than I anticipated. Loved
Took you by
it.
surprise,
Loved it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to start it soon.
And
We are.
you all can find me on Twitter at Lauren Salaun.
All right, and Scott.
Fantastic. You can find me on Twitter at sman80. That's sman80, and here for Defiance After Shows as well.
Yay! Well, let's go ahead and jump right into episode 7. This episode was about Norma.
Yay.
I'm glad we finally got to get her backstory because I was always wondering, like, how does a lady get into prison and she doesn't speak?
Right.
Yeah, she's always been such a mystery.
Right,
And sees so much. And what I think we still hear from her, 2 words? Or no, 3, 4 maybe? 4 to 5.
Yeah. A couple this episode, and then she sang the song like last season, as for the Christmas show. But we learned that Norma has, she has a very culty hippie past. She joins a cult or a hippie group, I guess you should say. It's about empowerment and enlightenment, and we find that the reason why Norma doesn't speak is because she has a horrible stutter.
Yeah.
I thought it was something tragic that happened to her that, scared her, so she didn't want to talk anymore.
I just thought it was she just wasn't able to ever talk.
Yeah.
You don't remember her singing?
I do, but I thought, speaking-wise, she wasn't able to...
So she can sing, but she can't speak?
Yes. Yes.
Really, Scott?
Yeah, well, no, what is it no, it's true. What is it where I forget what it's called. There is some type of...
That illness where you can sing, but you can't talk.
But there really is some neurological thing where it's they have a hard time speaking, but you can sing and you can do other things. I forget what it's called.
So then you should just sing all the time, basically, right?
Right, pretty much.
Sing your conversations.
It could have been something that was really traumatic that caused the stutter. So because we haven't seen that far back, into her childhood. We saw her teenage years.
Right, very true.
And on.
Yes, so we see poor Norma has her stutter, and this group, which is led by Guru Mac, has taken her in, and they told her she doesn't have to speak because he can feel her energy and her spirit. So this, of course, delights her, and we see through the different flashbacks that Norma she becomes one of many wives.
Which was great, by the way, because when they first did that tight shot, I was thinking, oh my gosh, she's getting married to him, and then it's it broadens out, and you're
I felt so happy for her, and I'm like, okay, this guy's a nut job, and cult leader, but Norma's somebody loves her, and this is so sweet, and then it's really depressing.
Right, and you can see on her face, she was yay, and then the enjoyment faded. Wait a minute, everyone else is getting married too. Okay, this is getting weird.
It's not just me.
Yes. And then, of course, all of the amazingness dies down after Guru Mac. I'm assuming, how many years do you think passed? Because that was probably, 60s, early 70s?
Yeah.
And then...
Because she's a teenager or something when she meets him, or in her early 20s, and then...
60s, maybe?
Yeah, around early 70s, probably, yeah.
So then we flash back to them. Then we go to the flash where they're older in the van driving. Guru Mac has lost all of his, his guru-ish ways.
His positive vibes.
Right. So negative.
Super negative.
mad because he got charged with what, like his wives or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
I was like, what charges
polygamy,
that
being
he's
a
talking
cult leader, like all sorts of.
Yeah, basically
Yeah, and I'm
being
sure
a cult.
tax scams and all that.
Probably
too,
all of that.
Yeah.
And he's, here Norma she's still so positive and sweet, and I felt so bad, like, oh. But then I didn't.
Her whole life, though, it's like her whole life with this, basically. With
But
this guy.
so do you fault Norma, or do you think like, well, that's his fault for being so mean to her? Or do you fault Norma for staying with somebody who was so mean to her?
Well, I think when you're an adult, you make your own choices.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I do think that she had been in a place for so long where she's so used to being stepped on and mistreated by people. And we see that even in prison. She lets herself get kind of tossed around and, pushed around essentially. And so I think on the one hand, this guy manipulated her and kind of brainwashed her, but at the same time, she's an adult.
Right,
the whole time she was an adult. It's not like this happened when she's like 10 years old.
True, but it's that fine line again too. It's like saying, if someone's in an abusive relationship and they don't leave, it's one of those hard things. Because in a way, she was in an abusive relationship.
Right, yeah.
It might have been more verbal and more in the controlling sense. But yes, and that she is an adult, and she made the decision from the very beginning to.
That's loyalty,
she
man.
does finally stand up for herself, though.
She does, and she pushes
Sure
Goon back
does.
off that ledge.
Oh yeah.
And says, I was like, okay, well, you better stutter your way through that.
I know,
SOB.
but what's her word choice going to be? Because you knew watching that, you're like, oh, I know she's going to say something.
Right.
She's going to speak. Like, what's the key word?
Right. I wonder how she got caught, because if you notice that she pushed him in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Right.
Because I'm
what I wonder,
assuming
too.
that's why she's in prison, right?
Well, that's what we're assuming, and I've been wondering, I'm like, is that, or is that what we're? I don't know.
Yeah, because that's where I was going too. How did I really want to see how she got caught, but then also because she's been the one who has stuck with him for so long, could she maybe be being charged with these crimes?
Right,
as
that's what I was thinking. It was the crimes of the evasion or tax stuff or money stuff. Because in a way, you're like, how would you know if nobody was around that it wasn't an accident?
Right.
It fell off the
Right.
cliff or
Very
whatever.
true.
So I was wondering that too, if that was the actual reason, or if it was more of, like you were saying, the tax evasion or whatever. And she got charged with that.
Yeah.
Well, let us know what you guys think. Make sure you go to iTunes and subscribe. Just click the subscribe button. It's free, and then you'll get all of our podcasts on AfterBuzz TV's recap of Orange is the New Black. And you can go right now on YouTube. There's a subscribe button right below. Just click it, and then you'll get all of the AfterBuzz shows. They're amazing. We recap everything, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Like
Everything.
90
Every
shows
show,
a week.
pretty
I mean, I
much.
feel like it's
Yes.
like
And
a lot.
comment. Let us know what you think about. Do you think that Norma is the reason why she's in jail because she pushed the guy off and killed him, or is it because maybe she was charged with some other stuff, tax evasion, who knows, whatever, being in this cult? Let us know what you think. Post your thoughts and your comments, because we love talking to you guys every week.
Definitely do. And on Twitter, you can do that hashtag ABTV OITNB.
Whoa. Yes, that is a lot of
Tongue
letters.
twister.
It is.
Know your
Tongue-tied
alphabets,
indeed.
folks.
Yes.
So then, okay, so we see Norma has, we get where she gets all of this healing stuff from, where she's got this energy about her that everyone just feels like she can heal people, because she's kind of been around it her whole life,
Right.
She's got the touch, or at least she knows how to make it appear like she has the touch.
Yes.
And so we see that in this episode, she's going through kind of a curve. From the very beginning, it seems as though she's getting a little bit annoyed. Everyone smiles at her. Everyone's like, hi, Norma. Can you bless me today? Can you touch me? She's a little annoyed. She's trying to take a pee.
Yeah,
She's trying to sit on the toilet, and people are bothering her.
Yeah.
She's getting worn down.
Yes. All of
this
her. That's what
giving.
happens when you got your fake juju that you're giving out to people. That's what you deserve, Norma. But so then, she's feeling like, okay, I'm getting a little tired of this. And then what kind of had me just thinking about this was when we see that Red is back in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And her and Red are talking, and Red knows her. Red's, they've worked together for 12 years in the kitchen. And when the girls come up to talk to Norma, like, hey, Norma, help us out, come join our meeting, and Red shoos them away, I for sure thought that something was going to happen where Norma at least stuck up and said, no, like, it's okay, or something like that. What did you guys think? Did you think she was going to be okay with being like, yeah, I can't help you guys, Or did you think she was going to be like, no, this is what I do now?
I didn't really get too hung up on that. I felt like, I mean, with seeing the flashbacks and stuff, you know, you see her starting to assert herself a little bit toward the end of those flashbacks, or to really assert herself, not really just starting. So, you know, and the touch is just a quick thing, so you would think that maybe she'd have a little more courage to stand up to Red, because I don't necessarily think that Red's abusing her nearly to the extent that Mac, you know, Guru Mac was. Red's bossy, and she's kind of a bitch, but, you know.
Well, that's Red.
Yeah, but she still cares about Norma.
Do you think they're really friends?
You know, I think Red cares about her a lot, and I am curious or confused with Norma, because we know that Norma is used to being in this position. So I don't know if it's something she just like falls into easily and puts up with, and it's kind of comforting to her to have somebody who's kind of bossing her around and mistreating her in a way. But so I don't know, from Norma's perspective at least.
Well, I think we I think we learned from this episode a little bit more with her standing up for herself of what she thinks about the treatment that Red gave her.
Right, I think it reminds her of something that she didn't like, which was, you know, I had a man in my life for all these years that treated me similarly, so I don't like that. But
yeah, because it was the way she treated, you know, even her comments to her and like to her when she shooed the girls away in the kitchen, she's like, "Oh, you magical mute," and like, "Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous," and like, you know, just totally discounting her and what's important to her. And so I think that sort of led to the way she finally treated Red.
Right. And you know what? I can't even sit here and say, I'm not going to say that Norma has these magical powers, but here's the thing about the power of touch. These women are not supposed to touch each other. So they go through every day without a hug, and you would be surprised what a hug does to somebody. Just a comforting touch in this place that is depressing. I mean, I probably would feel like, "Ooh, yes, I felt it."
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I can see how people think that she actually has some kind of juju-ness.
It's like a placebo effect. You know, she's helping to empower them to you know, feel better, and you know, you can change a lot with if you think about something differently.
Yeah, the thought of it and the power of touch, and you have both of those combined, and it is very powerful.
Right.
It really is.
And so then, of course, we see at the end of that, Norma walks away from the kitchen. She's done, honey. She's not going to let anyone boss her around, and she goes and she leads her little group, her culty group, her prison cult group.
Which was fantastic to see that circle, you know, from where she started from.
Right.
At the beginning of the episode with the flashbacks, and then where she ends up, you know,
still doing the little thumb in the forehead. I was like, "Oh, you brought that back!"
But she's leading her own group now, and I was like, "Wow, that was great."
Yeah, which does give some validity to like her whole life, you know, having followed Guru Mac and doing that. You know, it's not all for nothing. Like she still does feel like she's empowered by that, and this is a gift of hers, I guess. You know, she can still be a leader. So like the last 20 or 30 years weren't just all down the toilet of following that kind of lifestyle. Yeah. But do you guys think that she thinks she's a phony, or do you think she believes in it?
No, here's the thing. I think she knows, like, guys, I don't have any magical powers. But if all you need is someone to listen to you, and you come to the conclusion that you were looking for, if it makes you feel better if I'm just listening to you, then that kind of is a power. So I'm just going to sit here and have you feel better about yourself.
Right.
I don't have anything magical except the fact that I'm not talking to you. So I think that's probably what she's doing, and she knows that. But, hey, that's power in itself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree with that, too. I think, you know, she's not claiming to have magical powers, but she does, you know, has this kind of intuitive sense.
Yeah, she's the conduit.
That. Yeah.
But I also do think that she's enjoying it, too.
Right. Oh, yeah,
you know, obviously. So with her enjoying this newfound kind of power that she now has over this group, it's very, for her, it's fulfilling from where she was.
But also realizing that it's exhausting too.
Yeah,
for her, you know, she with the whole, like you said, can't even go to the bathroom without. Like that's her only moment.
Hex on a girlfriend. Hex on his girlfriend. Yeah, and then I think Red even almost, you know, she drinks the Kool-Aid because she, you know, once she gets the kitchen back, she's kind of like, wait.
Maybe she really does.
Okay, is this your Norma?
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about then. So we find out at the last episode that Red is back in the kitchen. She's working for Gloria. Gloria's obviously super upset that Red is back in the house. And I feel at this point I'm like, okay, well, it's only a matter of time before Red takes over for real. There's no way she's just going to be in there chilling. And we also see that Gloria, because of what's going on with her son Benny, we've seen in the past episodes, she wants him to come visit her more. He does, and as a result, she has to leave the kitchen. And this gives way for Maritza and all the other clowns to mess up. Maritza cuts her finger off, the tip of her pinky, and Gloria just can't take it anymore. She quits. I didn't think she was going to quit.
I didn't think she was going to quit that quickly. But like we talked about in the last episode, we knew that some other dynamic had to come into play here because we couldn't just have Red and Gloria jockeying for the kitchen again because we've already been there and done that. So what are we going to do to shake it up? But I didn't expect her to quit this fast.
Right.
And that easily.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I mean, I know she was fed up with everything, but it was like she threw the kitchen towel really quick.
Yeah.
Right.
I did love how because as I'm watching it, and she's like she's just like pissed about it. And she's like, I quit. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, you're in prison. You don't get a
Right.
call.
Yeah,
And then-
exactly.
And then Caputo reminds
Says
her
the
that,
same
thing.
hey, you're in prison. You can't really quit. But, conveniently, Red's like, me.
I'll just sleep a
Yeah.
little closer
She's like,
to all the action,
Yeah.
And so, Red's now back in charge of the kitchen. Are we excited or no?
I was excited for her. Red's one of my favorite characters. I like her so much. And I think they do such a good job with this show of making characters that are very complex and they have things about them that you don't like
Right.
Red being a bossy B word to people, but then have all these layers and sides to them that you really love and feel for. So I was excited for her to get her kitchen back
Right.
and kind of have that that place again.
Yes, but then
That
it's
fulfillment.
short-lived
I know.
because we see that with all these changes that the new corporation is doing with the prison, they now get food that comes in a bag. You just split it open.
Yeah,
and
pour it
dump
in,
it,
heat
boil
it.
it. There you go.
Yeah.
That was so disgusting. When I saw
I know.
at first, I'm not gonna lie, when they wheeled all the stuff in, it was like big. I was like, oh, it's a lot of mac and cheese.
I know,
Oh,
that's what I was
beef
thinking.
Wellington.
Beef
Oh,
Wellington, yeah.
they're gonna eat.
I know, I did the same thing. I was
I
like,
should've known.
And I love the way they had it all labeled like that too.
Right.
Beef
Yeah.
Wellington, mac and cheese.
Gourmet
Yeah.
prison
Yeah, they're
food.
gonna
Yeah.
eat good. This
Yeah.
is gonna be good. No, it's not.
Yeah.
There's no way coming in those big hunks. You know what I mean? So let's talk a little bit more about Gloria because she quits. We see the dynamic that she has with her son, and Benny is headed down the path to be in prison himself, like the way he's acting. But we also see because he comes with Sophia's ex-wife's family to the, I'm like trying to make
It's
sure.
all getting
Yeah, he's becoming a bad influence on Michael.
Yeah.
Now, Michael's dropping all these F-bombs and saying all these things.
Oh.
I would have thought exactly what Sophia thought, which was Michael is getting influenced by Benny being around him
Right.
so much. Did you guys feel the same way, or did you think that, okay, well, maybe there's something else going on? I mean, this boy, here he is, his father's no longer his father. His father's his mother. He gets put in prison. Now he's being raised as a single boy with a pastor dad, which has to be hard when you're, like, in an urban setting trying to live your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or you're a teenager anywhere.
Right.
Right.
So, like, did you think that, okay, so everything that's going on with him acting out, was it because of the influence of Benny, or did you think, like, oh, there's probably something else, some other family dynamic?
I thought for sure when it was starting out, I was like, oh, this punk Benny is being a jerk to that sweet little kid, But then as we start watching it a bit more, he's being such a jerk in
Right.
these prison visits, in these visits, and you start kind of seeing, he's going through this rebellious teenage phase. So I did start to attribute a bit of it to, he's definitely dealing with a lot and not really dealing with it well. So I thought that, Benny was kind of planting the seed, but
I know, I feel
Yeah.
bad. Like, you really have to think about, I guess we don't think about it as much with men that are in prison, but then with women that are in prison, you really do have to think about the kids, because it's kind of like kids, if you think about them, who do they live with typically if they only
Right.
have one parent? It's typically the mother,
mom.
right? So what happens when your mom's gone? Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it's really, really tough, and I felt bad for Gloria. Here she is trying to do these fractions. I didn't even know the fraction. I was
I
like,
know.
wait a minute.
I didn't either. I didn't remember. It'd been years.
common denominator.
I know, right? I'm like, if you put
2/3
that in half,
and 5/8.
this here.
Yeah, I was trying to think about it in my head.
Right.
and I was
Here she
like,
is.
Yeah.
But you got to give her the effort, A for
Right.
effort. She's trying.
Oh, yeah,
She's like,
she
I
is.
don't know how to do this either, but we're going to figure it out.
Laying down the law with
Right.
him, being like, you're not, we're bringing these grades up, you're coming here, we're doing our homework. She's really putting in the effort as much as you can when you're
Right.
in prison,
Right.
I think. And I can't even imagine, for Gloria, Sophia, like all of these people who have kids on the outside who can't they're cut off from being able to really help raise them, and especially when they're going through this adolescent phase and starting to act punky. And like, even with Sophia's ex-wife, she's like, she's a good mom, and she's like, I'm doing the best I can, he's acting out and stuff. So gosh, it just like makes me hurt.
Yeah, it's really tough. But again, like you were saying, it's a lot of typical teenage stuff with the extra layer of their parent being in prison. So to me, it was like, okay, it was pretty expected that Michael's acting out, because we've seen him kind of act out a little bit since the beginning.
He's starting to grow up some. He's starting to become a for real teen. Dealing with this stuff. But I applaud Gloria, for her to say, I'm gonna have to quit then. I can't do this. I have to raise my kid. He needs me more than you guys do. That was huge, because being the top dog in the kitchen at the prison is like the best job.
Absolutely.
So I applaud her for giving that job up.
And for like one visit a week, I think you can have, giving up something. They obviously are spending every second in prison, so having a job and something with power and importance and meaning is huge for them. So
it'll be interesting to see what Gloria ends up having to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's talk about Suzanne. Oh, crazy eyes. She is visiting Counselor Rogers and turns in her script so that they can perform it during drama class. And this script is outrageous.
Yeah, it's 50 Shades of Grey Space Prison Edition.
Right. Like, she's like, no, it's love. It's two people who are in love or have sex with like 4 other people and aliens. Like, how could that be horrible?
Yeah. I love all the weird phrasing. I can't even think of it now, but like all the weird terms that she's come up with, they're just so weird, like so purple meat stick or something.
Right. So then she's feeling like, really down that her script is not going to be performed. Tasty comes to the rescue and is very encouraging. I like this new Tasty. Like, I like this side of her that we're getting to see this season. She's being very, very encouraging, to the point where now Suzanne has decided to write her stories.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to write them anyways, And I thought it was great, though, that Tasty supported her, because I think she really needed that at that moment.
Because she's still kind of getting over the whole stuff with V and like kind of lost and confused. So having something for her to really put her energy in.
I think it's going to be really good, especially because, Tasty gets annoyed and tired of reading and editing all of her scripts. But when she passes on to Poussey loves it. She's like, oh, this is good.
And initially she's like, oh my gosh, are you serious? This is ridiculous.
And Tasty does not like it at all when she actually reads it. She's like, oh, wait.
That's a good friend. Tasty's a good friend. For encouraging her, because I don't know if I'd have been like, maybe somebody else can read it.
I know. And then when she read it and realized that she did like it, then she's like, okay. Well.
What do I do? All right, let's talk about what's going on with the prison hierarchy. So we see, of course, in the past few episodes that now that the prison is privatized, a lot of corporate stuff is going on, including sexual harassment. Yay!
We opened with that, and that was so funny.
Hilarious.
Back rubs literally going on while they're like inappropriate touching between coworkers.
Like back rubs.
Oh, sorry. And we also see that there's a lot of new COs that are in there now. We've got this goofy 21-year-old CO Bailey.
Oh my god, that was so funny. And he had an amaretto sour. I was like,
I just had an amaretto sour last week.
My 21st birthday. I was like, oh.
I was like, these women will eat you alive. You know what I mean? Like, this is who you guys decided to hire. This is who. Okay. And we see just how sad he is. We see that there's a karate class that Caputo tries to put on. We see a lot of I guess this is what happens when you privatize. Like, let's try to save money. So obviously, I don't see why you would cut training guards in a place where there's prisons. Like, you need them to be on point. And I feel like if you're going to cut anything, that shouldn't be the part that you cut. You need them to be able to, subdue these women and handle situations, because it's very volatile, right? So apparently they don't feel the same way. And so then we see that which I thought was really funny was, CO Bailey is getting kind of, he's with his buddy, CO Dickerson, and they're walking around, or Donaldson, I'm sorry. And I really thought, like, okay, when this situation with the Uno card, he's like, just watch the Uno game, make sure they're not gambling, okay? It's really simple.
No big deal.
No big deal, whatever, right? When he pulls out the mace when they were fighting, I was like, oh my gosh!
No.
What? Like, they're just fighting. Just tell them to stop fighting.
No. And it wasn't even was it even a bad fight? Like, she threw cards at her, right? That was all that happened.
Right.
And he's like,
Right. I was not expecting that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Wasn't. And more so, wasn't expecting him to spray himself and seal Donaldson.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Just hilarious.
Such a good comedic moment.
Yeah.
That was. I cracked up so hard when they were in Caputo's office and their eyes were both like red.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever been sprayed with mace, by the way?
No.
Not like in the face. I'm in the vicinity, but never in my face. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I never.
was like, I had a little mace keychain that I was, always had for attackers ready to go.
I've got one, yeah.
And I wanted to test it and make sure it was working. So I sprayed it, but like a dummy, I decided to spray it. I thought, okay, if I spray it in the sink, like down the drain, just to make sure it works. Yeah, apparently it hit like the side of the bowl and came back in my face. The dumbest, don't ever do that.
Oh,
but mace does hurt, and your eyes will become red like that. It does. So just advice to anyone, don't do that.
Oh, that's too funny. That's awful.
Me and C.O. Bailey are like over here spraying ourselves.
Been there, done that.
Right. So then another hilarious part was when Danny has a conversation with Caputo.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And they're talking. I remember we said this last episode, like, wait, what if Danny is the warden?
Right.
Because remember the warden got fired, so who's filling that position? So we find this episode, it's Danny, but they don't call it warden. They call it
Director of Human Activity.
Yeah.
Even though, technically he's making it seem like he's not the boss. They're at the same level.
Right.
But the flow chart,
the flow chart goes down to the right.
They're like,
it goes to the right.
Even. Yeah, we're on the same level, though.
He's like, they just talk from them, goes through me to
he's
you.
like, I don't seem to have to get anything approved, or you don't seem to have to come to me for any approval on things.
Yeah.
He's like, well...
So I guess I'm the boss then here, and then it would just flow from me to all the time.
Right, and he's like, no, I'm not the boss. We're the same level. It just flows this way. I'm like,
flows
wait,
to the right.
Doesn't matter if it flows to the right or down. It's still flowing through
They're
you.
so poking fun at the ridiculousness of bureaucracy.
Exactly, because it is. It's like all the heads there, and like he says, the Hydra heads. And,
don't call me the warden.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm just
stuff
the
like
director
that.
of human activity.
Don't call me by my last name.
Right.
Trying to downplay
all the silly titles and everything like that, director of human activity. And like,
I was like, that sounds
what
like
is that?
sex trafficking. Like, director of human activity. Let's just stick to warden.
Yeah, so it was funny to see that and kind of see the frustrations of Caputo again, like what's going on here, and like, he's not invited to, going on to any meetings or anything outside, so he's like stuck having to deal with just Danny.
I know, and I really appreciate Caputo's efforts. I like him a lot this season. He's never necessarily been like that much of a bad guy per se, but I think especially this season, he's putting forth a lot more effort to kind of improve the life of the inmates, or looking at the bigger picture, like you said, with the training and stuff, and really pushing for those longer training sessions and doing things appropriately and wanting books and stuff like that.
So we'll see what happens with that in the next episode, but I feel like it's gonna, again, this is not the good thing for the. You remember at the very beginning, we were like, it might be good that this company's taking over because at least Litchfield gets to stay.
Yeah.
They get to stay there. I think it's just gonna get worse.
No, I mean we talked about it though as soon as Danny came on board, like, oh, there's something off about him. And we don't like him.
Right.
But so Caputo, I've liked him more and more since the first. It was like the first season. He's gotten less and less creepy.
Right.
Each season.
Definitely.
Started like pretty creepy in the first season, a little less in second, and now even less in this season.
You're kind of rooting for him.
Right.
He's a good guy overall.
Okay, so then we also see that Piper comes up with this great idea to sell the extra panties to creepy guys who like to sniff panties. Used panties to sniffers.
Which is super smart on her part for being like, okay, we have all these scraps. We can make an extra pair of underwear. They're doing all these budget cutting things, but then they're like, well, you guys are wasting money doing, just pointing out those inefficiencies, which I think they, like I already said, the writers are doing a good job of that. And so she has this genius idea.
And I said something last week about that. I in my predictions, but I thought she was just gonna like do something with the women.
We both
we said something like, oh, she's just gonna sell it to the women.
Sell the women in
to make them feel,
sexy,
spice up their life a little bit.
Yeah, and be clean. I wasn't expecting her to go down the
skeezy route.
That route. Although, I mean, I know they have them in vending machines in Japan. Like, that's a whole thing.
So that's really true?
That is true.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
That is true.
Ew.
That's disgusting.
I actually am in some Facebook group, and some girl was posting about it, it's like tons and tons and tons of people. Like, I don't even know most of them. Like, thousands of people in this Facebook group. And some girl's like, I heard about this and that was pretty easy. Has anyone done it? I'm like,
Wait, what do you mean? Like, she was gonna sell her underwear?
And girls are talking about, they're like, yeah, I've done it before. You can make okay money, but it's pretty complicated. Like, they have specific rules you have to follow and things like that. You know, they have to be
specific rules.
Yeah, they're very particular about how you do this and stuff. And like,
who's the they?
The people who buy these underwear. Yeah. The website, it's not like man to man, sell it direct to the person.
Bad idea. You just want my dirty underwear?
Yeah,
it's less laundry for me. I have to go buy her. I think I might do this, guys. I might have to join in on this enterprise.
Oh gosh.
All right, so obviously it's not the best idea, but one thing that they were talking about, all the women when they were in the what I like to call the sweatshop, is would you guys buy or purchase items if you knew they were made by felons? Because that's what they were talking about. They were like,
aren't our license plates on our cars?
Are they? Is that true?
But that's. I don't know, but that's in a way I feel like that's different. That is true.
You can't not get a license plate.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like that's different, and that's a government thing. But when you're buying an actual
like underwear, lingerie, I'd probably have a weird factor to that.
Yeah, like an actual product, I think is a little different. Where you have a choice. I don't know.
I'm all for having. You know, I've never been to prison, or I don't have firsthand experience about this stuff, but I think that there should be programs like that and stuff for them to actually have jobs that are productive and useful, and make good use of the time that they've got going. They're not just for themselves, but also because taxpayers are paying for them to be there and live there. So. I'm all for
in this situation, it's privatized.
It's privatized.
Right. Well, in real life.
Yeah. Well, right. And what it was before, my problem, and I guess it's hard for me to say because I'm probably wearing clothes that are made overseas for people that are making hardly any money, but I feel in a way, like they talked about in previous episodes, that these are companies that are getting huge profits and paying these women
nothing.
Less than minimum wage, $1 an hour. And you think about that, and there's a lot of businesses that do that, and that's where it's problematic. I don't have a problem with someone from buying a product from someone that a felon made it. Because I feel like what's the difference than anything else? It's the problem I have is the fact that they're being exploited in that sense.
I don't know that. I don't feel that bad about it, I guess, because they're in prison.
Well, I think this whole thing is
but they're still being exploited. Like this company is making huge money off of these people.
And that's the only thing that I have a problem with. I don't think I would care so much if I knew that felons were making it. I think the fact that that's basically slavery / indentured servitude, and I don't care if you stole from someone or if you decided to traffic drugs as Piper did. If that's your crime, that's your crime. But I don't feel like somebody should profit off of you.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Someone's profiting off of you.
I don't think that's fair. Like, so this corporate. Well, why don't they just go? Okay, well, how about we have you work for $1 an hour, but then any extra money that we make, we give it to like an orphanage or we give it to somebody. I think I would feel better about that if there was something that they did instead of just padding their pockets.
Yeah, selling them for $90 and they're
like this is like Frederick's of Hollywood. What if that was like Frederick's was made by felons? Would you buy it? And I'm like, wait, would I? All right, so we see that Piper decides to start taking the panties, and her wheels are turning as to how this enterprise is going to work. We also see that there's a scene where she's playing a MASH game. Remember MASH?
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. Yes.
I was like, I used to always play MASH, and I almost forgot how to play. And I was like, wait, mansion, apartment,
shack house. Yeah.
Yes. And it's also crazy how Piper is kind of oblivious to her lifestyle, and how sheltered she really was. She really doesn't see, she doesn't think she lived in a mansion.
Not really. Like maybe 4. No, I think we had 5 bathrooms.
In a playroom.
All this stuff. Oh, I bet you had a maid too.
No housekeeper.
Right, all that stuff. Just
it's almost. But here's the thing. There's a lot. I was looking at that. And I'm like, how many people really look at their lives and go and do the same thing that Piper did?
Right.
They're like, no, we're not rich. We just had like 5 bathrooms. Yeah. Not like 7 or 8.
2 cars.
Yeah, and we don't live in a mansion per se. It was only 3,000 square feet. But I also kind of took it that she was also trying to downplay, obviously, as well, too, because I think she felt uncomfortable with it in front of the women, and so she was trying to, it really wasn't a mansion.
No, I think so too, but I think mostly she just did it. She was just oblivious to it. You know what I'm saying? This was a life that she grew up in.
Right.
She didn't have poverty around her. She didn't see, homeless people on her street. Like, it just wasn't around her.
Right.
So for her, it was like, oh, well, we only had 5 bathrooms. My neighbors had like 10. So
exactly.
they have a mansion. I don't have a mansion.
Right.
And, it's kind of gets back to that idea almost that like Piper's, her misbehaving and crimes and even her time in prison is almost like not like a field trip, because I don't want to downplay it like her real life, but it's very different from what her real life was.
Exactly.
Well, so many of these other women are going to go back to these really awful situations. And that's not to say that Piper didn't have crappy stuff going on in her life as well, because it's not like just because you have money or the big house that everything's fine. But it makes it much more real that this is like prison's just, I'll just be here for a little while and then I'll be fine when I get out, And
that's a good point, because that's exactly what happens when Daya comes to talk to her about, like, hey, you grew up with money. Like, what was it like? Do you feel like you're better because of it? And then Piper says a really interesting point. She was like, look, we ended up in the same place.
Exactly.
You're right. Yeah.
So money's not going to change it if you're trying to keep a kid out of prison.
Yeah, it was a very good point. Yeah, but also, kind of downplaying that mansion, it was sort of like her with her own body image and things like that. Like, she kind of tries to, look at herself in a different way, too, even though she's not, what other, she's sort of like, oh, I feel ugly, or feel, I think that happens a lot when you're comparing yourself and to other people and stuff. So
then, and we've seen in the past, Lorna was talking about the guys that she's scamming for her commissary, and that kind of gets the idea for Piper to go, hey, you know what? There's there's some weirdos who like to smell underwear, use saturated, nasty stinky underwear. Why not? Why don't we do that? So she tells Alex about her idea, and then Alex is used to this. Alex is like, okay, I know how to smuggle stuff and get it taken care of. And they choose C.O. Bailey as the one they need to kind of get on their side to be their mule.
Yeah,
I think it's a bad idea.
No, I do too. Yes,
just because with the whole pepper spray incident, he's like, if any other thing happens, you're out of here, buddy. So this new kid that's just gotten in trouble for being a dumbass is like the target for now going to do something super illegal. And when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, he's not going to go along. He's going to be really uncomfortable with that.
Or he's
clumsy.
Gonna mess up. Yeah, he's so
just
clumsy.
Gonna,
I was like, he's
sweating
the last
and nervous
person I would want.
And fall over, and all the panties are going to fall out.
He's going to fall on his face. Yeah. Disgusting.
Yeah, I want the experienced person to be doing that. I don't want, an idiot that's new, that doesn't know anything to be going and handling something that important.
Right.
I don't know why.
But here's the thing, though. It's like he has more to lose, and so that's why I feel like, because if he gets caught with a bunch of dirty underwear, then he just looks like a creep and weird, right?
Pervert, yeah.
It can't really be like, oh, it's the inmates who set up this enterprise behind prison to have you smuggling panties that no one was counting anyway. You know, so he has more to lose. But Alex is right, because she knows people, and she was just like, he's going to be good for this. Look how he's perfect. He's clumsy.
That's why I think he'd be horrible.
Yeah. Which at the same time, this is not going to go well.
No.
Freshly 21, little baby kid, like.
Yeah, they gotta have more requirements.
He's not like a hard,
yeah.
tough 21-year-old guy working in a prison. He's like a little clammy baby guy.
Right. I'm surprised he didn't scream when he had the mace. I just felt like he should have screamed. All right. We also see Cal in this episode. Cal is my favorite character.
I know.
He is my favorite character. Every time I see him, I get so happy because Cal is crazy. And we've seen him change over the few episodes that we've seen him in, but he's becoming more responsible. He got married to Neri. Now they're talking about having a baby.
Yeah.
And I really like his relationship with Piper. I think it's so cute.
It is.
I like it a lot.
They got a really good brother and sister relationship.
That was such a funny scene too with him.
And Cal knowing all about this panty sniffing.
Exactly. And he's like, I'm a generalist.
I was like, wait, no, you've sniffed a few dirty panties in your life, Cal. And she wants Cal to set up the website. Even though Cal's good at this stuff, I think it's kind of bad because it's like, wait, Cal, you know too much. So if you help us, you're probably
going to be connected.
Take some of this.
Right.
But also he's connected too. If anything happens, or he
could just be like, I don't know where these panties come from. This man brings them to me, and I take the orders on the website, and I don't care where he gets it from. So he technically can't really get in trouble, right?
I don't know. It seems like you could track
I think
it
you
back.
could probably be like, oh, you signed in and met with your sister several times, and then she started
a little too
doing this.
convenient.
But that's not illegal, is what I'm saying.
What, to traffic used underwear out of prison? I think it is.
It's not illegal, right?
There must be some law somewhere.
It's not okay.
Well, technically, I guess they're stealing because
Right.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what I'm like.
stealing
There's
the
got to be
scraps.
something about, I don't
They're
know.
stealing the scraps and setting up an illegal side business
Right,
that's
and
not
she's making money off
approved
of
by
it.
the prison.
I'm just saying, there's something's got to. I don't know. I just feel like
There's gotta be a loophole.
there's got to be
there's a
something.
loophole
Sell
somewhere.
these dirty panties. And then we also get some new information from Cal that Polly and Larry are still together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Larry's got a job because remember we always wondered like what happened with them? Did they end up being together or was it just a quick fling or whatever? They're still together. Polly helped Larry get a job.
I can't believe he has a good job, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Fix her
What?
gadgets.
For that, for him,
Like a head
the
editor or
goofball,
something.
Right.
with an office, I think he said, too. I was like, what?
Do you think you're gonna see Larry and Polly again?
No comment.
You're like, no
You've seen the
comments?
whole.
I've seen them all.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about the I'm like saying in general,
ever?
like ever?
Like in the season. I think probably so.
I'm going to say no, but maybe next season, but I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then, of course, we see at the very end, Aleda is talking to Daya about being selfish for wanting to keep the baby. And you can tell that Aleda does have some love for Daya. She doesn't hate her.
No.
It's this really twisted love that she has. But she feels bad, you know?
She
a little bad.
was funny though because it's like she's still so cold, you know. She sees her come in with her feet and she's like, "Oh, you should get someone to rub those feet," you know.
Yeah, and moves
and
them.
she's the mom, and then she moves them out of the way. You know, I'm like, she's like,
Right.
And
She's a funny way of showing that love.
Right. And while I watch those moments with them, you know, I do think they come from a genuine place of caring. You know, it's her daughter,
Right.
of loving her. But so much of it just always feels so self-motivated from her, you know?
Right.
Which, I mean,
Absolutely.
we see that a lot of it is.
She's been
but
self-motivated from the beginning because we
Right.
saw her flashbacks from the previous season, you know, just her going out and
yeah, and how having kids ruined her
was
life.
in the way.
You know?
Right.
You know, the
It's going
kids
to
were in the
ruin
way.
your life, not like thinking about the
I'm like,
best
you're
for the
already in
child.
prison. How much worse can it get? You know, at this point, just keep the kid.
But you're in prison with your kid too. Like, how awesome is that? No, I'm like, if you're gonna be in prison, you have your own child there with you. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
I would be happy
3
if my mom- like,
generations.
my mom's in
Yeah,
there with
my-
me.
right?
Okay, if Daya has the baby and keeps it there, what can
They
she
can't keep
Well,
the
she can't
baby,
keep the
in
baby in
prison.
prison.
Not in
Okay.
prison. She has
No.
to give it to somebody in her family.
Right.
Okay,
Or it
that's
goes to
right.
foster
I
care.
forgot.
Maria
what
has her
happened.
daughter. She had her daughter when she was in prison, remember? And her
And
baby
her
daddy had to
baby
take
daddy
the
had
If
baby.
there isn't,
Yeah.
it goes to foster care.
Right.
Until they get out.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Aw, that's so sad.
gosh.
Okay.
Well, the other thing that makes me sad too is like thinking, is she actually getting good health treatments while she's pregnant? Does she actually? Because you don't really hear about that, like her going to a doctor or her
Right.
going. Like,
Right.
you know,
Well, I
there's
think-
medical there, but is she
Right.
actually getting the
Well, yeah,
the
they're
good
not
health?
prepped for pregnancies.
I think by law they have to like
Yeah, there
prenatal,
has to
like
be
there's like some
some
guideline
sort
that
of
you have to give
minimum
pregnant
that they
women.
have
Exactly,
to
because I was
do for-
hoping
yeah.
that, but you don't really see that. Because I thought about that in this episode. Like, is she getting the treatment that she really needs
She
to take
getting
care of
her
the baby?
prenatal vitamins.
Right?
Yeah,
Is she getting
right.
like the proper like stuff?
She gets the
'Cause it's-
4D,
Prenatal
like the
massage.
what is it, the 3D like ultrasound?
Yeah.
Ultrasound, yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not the 3D
That's an
one.
extra cost. Right there.
Right. All right, let us know what you guys think about this episode and what do you think is going to happen. Don't tell us. No spoilers.
No.
Where can we find you guys?
Oh,
Ladies
me
first.
first.
Ladies
Me first.
first.
Oh, thank you so much. You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Periscope, everywhere at Lauren Salaun.
Spell salon.
Salaun.
Okay, for the people who are
Yeah,
listening.
yeah, 'cause I wouldn't have known how to
That's right.
spell
Sorry,
either,
yeah.
so.
Sounds like hair salon, not spelled that way.
Yeah, there we go. You can find me on Twitter at sman80. That's sman80, and here for Defiance as well on the after show.
Yeah, so you can find me, Megan Thomas, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Meg Scoop, like scoop of ice cream. And you can also catch me on AfterBuzz TV's sister station, Black Hollywood Live. I host a show called Next, where I interview a bunch of people. Watch it. Make sure you stay tuned for the next episode of AfterBuzz TV's Orange is the New Black. See you next week, guys. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.